brought my recorder out.
It's not
my recorder.
Send me the email. Give it to me.
Okay.
I don't see it.
All right, thank you.
Is it a tape or what?
Yeah, it's like old school ones. Look like a blue box. I'm sorry, man.
No, I thought I was recording this whole time.
Oh, maybe you ran out of battery. All right, folks, real quick. It's 2:10. If we finish at 2:30, then you guys leave at 2:30. We won't, by the way. We finish at 2:45, then you guys go home at 2:45. Okay? So let's keep the noise a little down and participate if you feel like I'm actually doing something. The thyroid gland, it's right below the larynx, right? The thyroid gland you can actually palpate, which is one of the questions up there. You can actually palpate that. You can also palpate the testes. The testes produce what? Testosterone, right? However, there's a contraindication when it comes to the thyroid gland. When do you not assess it? When do you not palpate it?
Hyperthyroidism.
When it's hard and large. When the patient has hyperthyroidism, why would you not want to? Yeah, so like the whole issue with the thyroid gland, guys, it's hypertrophy, meaning it's excessively grown and it's producing what?
T4 and T3.
Thyroid gland. T3, T4, and? Alright, let's talk about these real quick. I want you guys to know that these deal with metabolism. Okay? These deal with metabolism. When we talk about metabolism, what's happening? Well, excuse me, what are we referring to? Give me an example of metabolism. Breaking down things, yeah. So anytime your cells are at work, folks, that's what it's doing. Anytime your cells are at work, breaking down substances, whether it's glucagon breaking down glycogen to glucose, or whether it's mitosis and cell division, that's metabolism. Do we concur? Concur, you like that word, right? Do we concur? How about calcitonin? What does calcitonin do?
It's a breakdown of bone.
Okay, so calcitonin is really important, guys, okay? Calcitonin is another type of, what's wrong? You okay? It's Jessica.
Oh, no, it's just my back.
Oh, okay. Calcitonin, folks, is really important because it actually brings down the calcium level in the blood. But I want you guys to know how this works. So if we have a blood vessel and we have a bunch of calcium, the calcium, by the way, is positive, so it's called a cation. Anyway, if you have a bunch of calcium in there and then you have a bone, okay, calcitonin brings down the serum calcium, meaning the calcium that's inside the blood. How does it do it? Okay, it stimulates the bones to go out and bring in the calcium into the bone. So it solidifies, it ossifies, or it hardens, or it aids the bones in actually having that dense composition. Does that make sense? That's what calcium does. Calcitonin's role, which is a hormone, all it does is it gets that calcium and it pushes it into the bone. That's how the serum calcium level drops. Does that make sense? Good. So that's the role of the thyroid gland. What happens if you have hyperthyroidism? What does that mean? You have too much of, particularly T3 and T4. You have too much of T3 and T4, guys. Your metabolism is speeding up. What am I going to look like? Very thin, because these bodily processes are occurring really fast. I'm burning calories really fast, so therefore the patient's going to be thin. Exophthalmos, which we'll talk about next week, when the eyes are bulging out. Patient has heat intolerance, meaning they get hot all the time. Okay? And how about if someone has hypothyroidism? Okay, it's going to be the opposite. Usually they're slowed down, they're a little heavier because they have a hard time breaking down and burning off all those elements. Does that make sense? All right, what was the next question?
What hormones are responsible for blood pressure and fluid regulation?
Cool. Okay. Blood pressure is dictated by the volume of fluids inside your body, right? Okay, we have aldosterone. Okay, what does aldosterone do?
Retain sodium.
You guys remember what this is?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the nephron, right? It has that. It's gonna start having nightmares again, right? All right, you guys remember that RAA? Okay, the RAA mechanism, folks. Let's talk about this real quick. Renin is a hormone that's secreted by what part of the body?
Kidney.
By the kidneys. Okay, so renin is secreted by the kidneys. Good. In the juxtaglomerular apparatus of the nephron, in this particular area right here. You guys remember the JGA?
Yes.
Alright, that's renin. Renin is a hormone, folks. It's secreted by the kidneys, by the nephron. It's in the body now. It's in the bloodstream. Angiotensin 1, which is an enzyme, it looks at the renin and it says, oh my God, I have to convert into angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 is responsible for constricting the blood vessels. It has nothing to do with water retention. Does that make sense? It has nothing to do with the exchange of fluids and sodium. But it does, however, increase the blood pressure because the lumen of the blood vessels are tighter. So the heart has to pump harder. Does that make sense? So that's how it raises the blood pressure. Once angiotensin 2 is in the body, remember it's a hormone, so your body detects it because it becomes systemic real quick. Aldosterone is released. Aldosterone is released, and imagine these little dots are aldosterone. So aldosterone is released, okay? And it helps the body actually retain sodium, hence what also is retained? Fluids. So that's the renin angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, aldosterone, or the RAA mechanism. All right, so we have aldosterone, okay? What other hormone?
ADHD.
Okay, we also have ADH, anti-diuretic hormone. Because this hormone, okay, it's in here, and when it's present in large amounts, it actually makes sure that you're not, what does anti-diuretic hormone do? No urine, right? No urine, so it helps you retain fluids. So essentially aldosterone and ADH. But you guys do understand this whole RAA mechanism, all right? You do know that renin is secreted by the kidneys, by the JGA of the nephron. Okay, renin stimulates the RAA mechanism. It's like a domino effect that in turn raises blood pressure. Are we good on that? All right. What's the next question?
ANH.
Pardon me?
ANH is an ANH hormone.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The atrial natriuretic peptide, is that the one you're talking about?
It's an atrial, yeah.
Natriuretic hormone, they call it hormone. The atrial natriuretic hormone, folks, does what to the blood pressure? It decreases it. So, if we have all of these elements increasing the fluid volumes, now the blood pressure is a little too high. So, inside the atria of the heart, there's these specialized cells. If the heart's pumping too hard, it's because the volume's too high, right? So those cells stretch out and they secrete the ANH, or the atrial natriuretic peptide, or hormone, however you want to call it. And it's a hormone, so it becomes systemic real quick. The kidneys or the nephrons receive it, and they know at this point in the glomeruli to dump the sodium. So that's how they regulate, well, that's how we maintain homeostasis. Does that make sense?
So it lowers the blood pressure?
Yeah, ANH lowers the blood pressure. All right, what's the next question?
How do we treat acromegaly?
How do we treat acromegaly?
Hormone suppressing.
Well, first of all, what's acromegaly? What's acromegaly?
Enlarged.
It's not gigantism. What population gets acromegaly?
40 to 50.
Adults. Okay, that's how we're gonna know it right now. The adult, right? And please know the manifestations, folks. The bulging forehead, the bulbous nose, the enlarged lips. Okay. Also the cardiomegaly, or the enlargement of the heart, hepatomegaly, splenomegaly, or the spleen getting big as well. All those organs. So how do we treat acromegaly? Where's the issue occurring for acromegaly?
GH for hormone.
Okay, growth hormone. So which gland secretes growth hormone?
Anterior. Anterior.
The neurohypophysis or the adenohypophysis? Good, the adenohypophysis. Okay, the adenohypophysis. A for anterior, right? Anterior pituitary gland. So the adenohypophysis secretes too much growth hormone. Why? Tumor, hyperplasia, something's going on, right? How do we treat acromegaly?
give
The
us
Dopamine agonist?
dopamine.
Okay, dopamine agonist. Okay, that's a certain type of medication. What type of surgical procedures can we get?
Removal of the tumor.
Therapy?
Radiation.
Okay.
Burn surgery, transplantal removal.
The transfernodal removal, folks. Please know what that is. Know what's happening. It's a tube that's going inside the nose through the sphenoid portion of the bone that's inside the cranium, and that's how we remove it. Okay, we obliterate it in that fashion. You can also use radiation to decrease the size of the tumor. Yes? Transfernodal. Yeah, transfernodal.
Can you write it down?
Transfernodal.
What was that, removal, there's a word that goes in front of removal of the tumor, the tissues? What was that word, you told us to remember?
I forget.
I think it's that one.
Yeah, the transfernodal just lets you know where you're going through.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions about acromegaly? Please read up on acromegaly, okay, folks? Yeah. What's the next one?
What is somatotropin?
What's somatotropin for?
Growth hormone?
Growth hormone. Okay, so if the patient has an excess of somatotropic hormone, what's happening to them? You can have acromegaly as an adulthood, and if it's onset before the epiphyses of the bones fuse together, what's it called? Gigantism. Okay, good. But you guys know what somatotropic is, right? It's in the book. All right, what's the next question?
Estrogen, progesterone, and
Let's talk about estrogen. What does estrogen do?
It's responsible
promotes
for
development of
the development of the female during puberty.
Female characteristics, folks. Also during pregnancy, estrogen maintains the endometrial lining. Okay, it stops, it ceases ovulation and the menses to occur. Okay, what's the next one?
Progesterone.
What does progesterone do?
It continues the production of the reproductive organs.
Okay.
That, yeah.
What else?
promote conditions required for pregnancy.
Same thing. So I want you guys to remember this because eventually all of you guys are going to get to term 4. I don't mean like eventually, I mean like, term 4 gets here. These two are really important for the first week of term 4 because we talk about labor and delivery, we talk about pregnancy, and estrogen and progesterone are the two hormones that maintain the integrity of the endometrium for pregnancy to be viable, for there to be a pregnancy. Does that make sense? Okay. What's the next one? Huh? FSH. What's FSH? Follicle stimulating hormone. This right here is what's blocked by these two during pregnancy because otherwise,
The menstrual cycle.
yeah, otherwise this would continue, whatever it is, okay, and the expulsion of the ovum. That's what FSH does. It maintains the integrity of the ovary, of the follicle, that the cycle of the follicle continues during your menstruation period and your ovulation. Okay. Any questions on these? What's the next question? All right. I'm not even gonna write that one up here, but a thyroid panel, folks, is a serum test that we take. It's a blood test, right? And what are we looking at? TSH, T3, T4. That's all it is. But it's a blood sample, right?
Okay,
It's
so
a serum.
what is it, T?
T3, T4, TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. We're trying to see the levels. Is there too much of it? Is there a decrease in it? Okay, that's what a thyroid panel includes. It's a blood sample. When I say serum, it's a blood sample, okay, guys? What's the next question? All right, let's talk about this. I'm gonna talk about both right now, okay, guys? Let's talk about diabetes insipidus first. What's diabetes insipidus? What hormone? ADH. Anti-diuretic hormone. Is there a lot or is there a little bit of it?
Little bit.
Okay. There is a little. I forget. Hold on. I have to think about this sometime. Anti-diuretic. So there is no ADH. So ADH is gone. Okay. Does anybody agree or disagree with me?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure.
I was not agree
Oh, yeah,
because
you're right.
before, because I was thinking water is green, it means it's
It's asking, yeah, I know, because the hormone does a negative function, so it's kind of weird to really understand it. But anti-diuretic, meaning you're not peeing, right? This hormone helps you have, like, conserve your urine. With diabetes insipidus, you're not conserving anything, so you have no ADH. No ADH, you're peeing a lot. With the syndrome of inappropriate anti-diuretic hormone, it's the complete opposite. You have a lot of ADH. Too much ADH. So you have, this is no ADH, this is no urine. Or very little urine. Does that make sense? Okay? You have too much ADH, too much anti-diuretic, too much don't pee hormone. So the hormone doesn't let you pee, doesn't let you urinate. Do you guys understand that? Where is ADH being secreted from?
it is posterior.
The neurohypophysis, the posterior the posterior pituitary. All right. There's two labs that we look at when we're looking at both of these conditions. What are they?
Urine specific gravity. Osmolality.
Okay, specific gravity and serum osmolality. What does serum mean? Blood. That means blood. All right, good. And urine means urine, right? Right? Urine means urine. Okay. So when we're testing the specific gravity of urine, what we're doing is essentially we're getting a little cup, we're filling it up with pee. You guys agree with that?
Yeah.
And we send it to the lab. We always have particles inside the urine. Always have particles. But if somebody's peeing a lot, they have high concentration, this is called the specific gravity, in relationship to the fluid, how much particle is in there? Well, for diabetes insipidus, if you have a high concentration of urine, a lot of pee coming out, your specific gravity is, it's low, meaning there are very little particles in comparison to the fluid, to the urine inside. Does that make sense? For syndrome of anti-diuretic hormone, do you have a lot or a little bit of urine?
Little.
You have a little bit of urine. Your specific gravity is going to be high, meaning the concentration of particles for how much in correlation with how much fluid you have, it's going to be high. So your specific gravity is high. Does that make sense? What are we assessing here? Blood or urine?
Urine.
Urine. We're assessing urine. Does this make sense, guys? The gravity, folks, think of gravity equals particles. Are there a lot of particles compared to the urine? Well, for syndrome of anti-diuretic hormone, yeah, because you have a very little bit of urine. So the specific gravity is high. For diabetes insipidus, the specific gravity is low because compared to the urine, you have a little bit of particles because you're peeing a lot. Does that make sense? How about the serum osmolality? We're doing blood, right? So we're doing the contents inside the body. So if we're talking about diabetes insipidus, if all your fluids are outside of your urine, how does the fluid inside your body look? Let's think of this as a little serum, a little vial with blood inside. Okay? With diabetes insipidus, where's all your fluids?
Gone.
They're gone, right? So what are you at risk for with diabetes insipidus? Dehydration.
Electrolytic options.
That's correct. So when you have diabetes insipidus, your serum osmolality, the particles, okay, inside of your body is going to be low. Now, you got lost there. Let's do it again. The serum osmolality, meaning how many particles are inside the blood in comparison to the fluid, the blood inside the body. Well, since you're getting rid of all your fluids in diabetes insipidus, you have a lot of particles compared to the fluid. Your osmolality is high. Does that make sense? Now, if you have syndrome of anti-diuretic hormone, you're not peeing, where's all that fluid at? Where's all that fluid at? It's in your body. It's in your body, because you're not getting rid of that urine. Syndrome of antidiuretic hormone does the opposite. Now you're worried of a fluid volume excess or overload, because you're keeping all that fluid. You're not urinating, guys. So, compared to all that urine, all that blood, your serum osmolality, the particles that are inside your blood, is low because it's diluted by all that fluid. Does that make sense? If you can't remember like that, just memorize the book, what it says. It literally just said, what I just said, right? But I want you guys to try to understand it like this. That's what osmolality is, that's what specific gravity is. Okay? All right. What was the next question? Yes?
Do people with that have problems with blood pressure?
Yes ma'am. Well, which one? This one or this one?
Or, well, both?
What issue am I really going to be concerned with right here? Yeah,
High blood
dehydration. So what happens with a patient with SIADH?
The high blood pressure.
So what's the blood pressure like?
High.
Gonna be higher? Lower?
You tell me. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Think about it.
I would think it would be higher.
Yeah, it would be higher. Yeah, before I confuse you, huh? Yeah, it would be higher because you're retaining all that fluid. A patient with diabetes insipidus, you're getting rid of all that fluid. So if you were to think of it like that, you'd be at risk for hypotension. Does that make sense? All right, but remember, guys, fluid volume excess or overload, dehydration. What's the next question?
Which hormones regulate blood sugar levels?
All right. When we eat, folks, okay, this is the esophagus, this is the mouth, this is the stomach, right? So we eat some Krispy Kreme donuts. Okay. A lot of sugar, a lot of glucose. Okay. Well, actually, let's say just sugar, because it's not glucose here. Okay. When the food gets inside our stomach, when it mixes in with the acids, it all gets broken down, right? Right now, there's sugars. By the time they become chyme, meaning a liquid mixture of stomach acids and the food content that we're eating, it becomes chyme. This chyme passes through the pyloric sphincter and goes inside the duodenum. The cells are now responsible for breaking down, for absorbing the broken down elements of sugar. Now, they get absorbed into the bloodstream via the cells, okay, via the cilia, all that good stuff. There's a couple of hormones that are responsible for turning, when our body takes sugar, it utilizes that sugar, right? It uses the glucose, okay? Whatever it doesn't use, it stores it. You folks know what it stores it as? Okay. It stores it as glycogen. Okay, it stores it as glycogen. And then when we've maxed out that reserve of storage, think of the liver as a garage, right? This is where the glycogen is stored. Then we get adipose tissue. That's where all the sugars are stored as fat. Our body sometimes, well, all the time, they need sugar. We need glucose. This is what we need. Because glucose, when it's glucose now, our cells can actually get it, okay? But we need to get glycogen to become glucose. What hormone is responsible for glycogenesis, or the breaking down of the glucose from its glycogen form into its glucose form that actually raises blood sugar?
Cortisol?
Okay, cortisol is responsible as well. But which particular hormone?
Pancreas.
Which hormone, folks?
Glucagon.
Glucagon. Okay. Now glucagon, okay, it's secreted by what?
Glucagon is secreted by the pancreas.
By the pancreas, okay? So glucagon is a what? It's a hormone. Okay, so glucagon is a hormone, and cortisol does play a role in it as well. However, glucagon comes in and it gets glycogen and it turns into glucose. Now the cells can actually use it. Does that make sense? So glucagon is responsible for increase in blood sugar. Does that make sense? Okay, because it gets glycogen that we can't use because it's in the liver. Glucagon comes in, okay, and it actually releases glucagon. It turns glycogen to glucose. Now your blood sugar is up. When a patient goes into a hypoglycemic event, we can give them glucagon. Okay, that glucagon is the medication that we give them to turn all the readily available glucose into glycogen into glucose, and it brings up the blood sugar. So glucagon brings up blood sugar. Does that make sense? What brings down the blood sugar? Insulin. Now insulin comes in. It lassos glucose and it shoots it inside the cell. Does that make sense? What hormone is responsible for increasing blood sugar?
Glucagon.
What hormone is responsible for decreasing blood sugar?
Insulin.
What's that called? Glycogenolysis. Okay. Oh. Okay. Remember that word I put up here? That's what it means. It's a medical term that we use to describe how we use non-usable forms of sugar into usable forms of sugar. How we're breaking down sugar to its basic components so we can utilize it. Does that make sense? Okay. All right.
How about GH consideration? It raises blood glucose.
Simply because it utilizes for the production of new structures. For the growth hormone? Yes, that's right. So it utilizes more, so more secretion of glucose is prompted because we need it for not only hematopoiesis, but for the rebuilding of any type of structure. It's one of those elements that our cells utilize, glucose and oxygen, or cell respiration, or ATP, adenyl triphosphate. You guys remember that a long time ago? All right, any questions on this, folks? All right, what's the next question?
Describe hormonal changes.
All right, when somebody gets older, males, again, guys, it's called a climacteric, meaning a 15-year-old gets an erection and every 5 minutes, every 3 minutes, I was talking about they rub up against a desk, erection. An 80-year-old, it's a little slower, but it doesn't mean that the patient's impotent. It just means that it takes a little longer for the older adult. That's males. It's called climacteric. What happens to females post-menopause? Vagina, constipation, that's males as well. But to the reproductive organs.
Dryness.
No, I'm saying constipation. I'm not saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So yeah, what did you guys say?
Dry.
Yeah, dryness, no more secretion, no more lubrication. What happens to the vulva? It shrivels up. It's no longer as elastic as it used to be. What happens to the breast?
They dry.
They sag as well. Okay. What happens to there's one more. What happens to facial hair? Women get it. Yeah, you all will get it. And what's it called?
First is hair.
Hirsutism. Okay, that's a normal part of growing up, of getting older. Those are normal aging changes. Hirsutism.
Oh, no, that's that. Word to describe the changing process. What was it called? It's
Oh,
called.
climacteric. For males?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Climacteric for males. This is just when you have decreased testosterone, so your the muscle tone changes and all that stuff. But for women, the hirsutism is hair growth. What's the next question, guys?
Which gland could be assessed during the physical assessment?
Thyroid.
The thyroid gland. It can be assessed during that, but if you have hyperthyroidism, you don't assess it. Okay. What else?
Testing.
Yeah, testes. What other question?
Oh.
Labs for
Diabetes.
Specific
encephalitis,
gravity.
Insipidus. That's what I went over that.
Specific gravity and serum.
Yeah, specific gravity and serum
Role of
osmolarity.
parathyroid gland and hormones.
Alright, what is a parathyroid? First of all, where are the parathyroid glands?
On top of the thyroid.
Okay, behind on the surface of the thyroid gland. Okay, but to the posterior. So if we're looking at the anterior portion of a thyroid gland, kind of looks like a butterfly, right? And then you have the trach. Okay, this is a thyroid gland. If you look at the back portion of it, you'll see this. And you'll see 4 nodes. You see those 4 dots? Okay. These are the parathyroid glands. They secrete something called parathormone. Okay. What else does what does the parathyroid gland do?
It secretes a PTH, which stimulates bone breakdown.
Parathormone growth. Okay, good. So what do you think it does? If calcitonin brings blood sugars, calcium levels down,
This one brings it up.
this one brings it up because it breaks down the bone and it releases calcium into the bloodstream. Now that's important for you guys to know when you have hyperparathyroidism. You have excessive secrete of parathormone, it's breaking down too much bone, you have hypercalcemia. You see how this works? We'll get to that next week. But it's important you guys know parathormone, and it deals with raising calcium levels. Does that make sense? Okay. What's the next question?
Role of adrenal gland hormone.
Oh, I'm sorry, before we go there, what does a thyroid gland need to survive, to function?
Iodine.
Iodine. The thyroid gland needs iodine. Where do we get iodine from? From our diet. Okay, if they're not getting it from their diet, they have to get it from some type of other supplement. Okay, but the thyroid gland needs iodine to function. I'm sorry, the adrenal glands, right? So we have a kidney. Okay, so we have the adrenal gland. Medulla cortex. What's secreted by the cortex?
Steroids.
GCs.
Okay, glucocorticoids, steroids, mineralocorticosteroids, and androgens or sex hormones. Okay. What is the major one that's produced by the glucocorticoids? Cortisol. Cortisol. What's the main one from the minerals? Aldosterone. These are just sex hormones. Good. What's produced in the medulla?
Epinephrine and norepi.
Epi and norepi. Okay, fight or flight. Any questions on that? Okay. What's the next question?
Glycolysis is the one here.
Which we already know.
Oh, glycolysis, that's right. Breaking down of the blood sugars, of the sugars. What else?
Describe the 24-hour urine collection.
What happens if you can't collect the urine specimen because someone can't void?
Catheter.
Straight cat.
Use a catheter. Okay. Probably not a straight catheter, probably an indwelling because it's a 24-hour specimen. You get the Foley bag, you put it in a bucket full of ice, and essentially you keep it there. Once it's full, you transport it to another ice bucket of a bucket. What other question is there?
That's it.
That's it. Real quick. I forgot your test is next week. I thought you guys were coming back tomorrow. That's pretty much it, guys.
Next week on Tuesday, right?